It feels really good. It feels amazing. She feels much more of this world than the world that she was really in. So when we say phrases like ahead of her time, that doesn't even quite cut it. It's almost as though she was actually born in the wrong century. She feels so relevant to today, and her voice is so much more powerful than the majority of even high-profile women I know who know how to use their voices and know how to look out for one another. None of us can top Lee Miller. So that's why we need this story to keep our hopes up, to keep us inspired. It's a difficult time. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your life is like, whether you're privileged or not. These are strange times to be living in. And as women, and as a younger generation of women, those girls, fuck me, they need people to look up to. We have to keep showing them that and giving them that voice and showing them the way and teaching them how to use their voices. And that's what Lee Miller did. That blows my mind. Completely blows my mind. Lee had been done a great disservice in many ways by just the patriarchy and how the world was. You know, there were, as we know, fewer opportunities for women. There really weren't that many female photographers at that time, or certainly not as many as the men. And Lee was a woman who was so intrinsically true to who she was. And that's one of the things about her that I absolutely love and myself feel inspired by. It's hard to feel inspired by extraordinary women because we want to feel completely taken by them. I'm so taken by her, how she lived, how she was free with her body, with her affection, with her opinions about things, with telling the truth, speaking the truth, teaching other people how to do that. It is it's everything I live for. And yet Lee Miller was doing it years ago and way better than everybody and certainly better than me. And so to be playing someone who I truly admire, adore, look up to and aspire to be even a little bit like, it's the most enormous privilege. So this project started, I had heard of Lee Miller. I knew who she was. I didn't know a huge amount about her. I certainly didn't know nearly enough about her experience during the war. But 7-8 years ago, a really good friend of mine who lives in Cornwall named Mimi, who works as a researcher for an auction house, she phoned me and she said, Kate, there's this auction coming up and there's an amazing table. You just have to get it. It's incredible. I love old tables. I don't particularly collect them, but I just love old tables, love cooking and hosting and big meals. And she said, you have to get this table. I said, why? What is it? She said, it's incredible. It's just come out of a house. Someone died and we're selling the estate. And all this incredible furniture. The house was originally owned by Annie Penrose, who was the sister of Roland Penrose, who was married to Lee Miller. Do you know who Lee Miller was? I said, oh, yeah, I do. Anyway, this table, this incredible table, it's one solid slab of wood, very, very detailed knots and whorls of the tree bark in the top of it. But it was in the kitchen in this house in Lamb Creek in Cornwall, where Lee Miller and Max Ernst and Paul Eluard and Man Ray and Picasso and Roland would all have these kind of hedonistic, free summers of love, and they would eat and prepare meals at this table. You have to get this table, you have to get the table. Okay, oh my God. She sends me all the research information, cut to, I got the table is mine. And then I thought, Lee Miller, wow. Lee Miller, why hasn't anyone made a film about her? That's weird. That's interesting. Maybe I'll find out about that. Found out very quickly that actually many people, many men, had tried to make this film. So when I first made contact with Tony Penrose, Lee Miller and Roland Penrose's son, he said to me, oh, I've got a whole box in the attic of screenplays that have just never been made. I said, Tony, my God, why? He said, but they just didn't quite get it. And Tony is wonderful, and he's been a hugely important part of the creative process for all of us, because he's been our access point to the real Lee, in spite of the books, most of which he wrote. There's so much more as you get beneath the surface. And he just always felt there was the film yet to be made by somebody else out there. And so he had just never quite handed over those rights to anyone because it had not gone well in the past. And so we joined forces and started putting the story together. It's gone through a couple of different writers, as is often the case. But what's really interesting about our screenplay now and the process of putting the film together is that actually so much has changed historically in the world since we started making this story and putting it together, that actually I think that has slightly helped us and almost enhanced the story that we're trying to tell, that was Lee's story, Lee's true story, and who she was, this great champion of other women. For example, the Me Too movement has happened since we've been putting this screenplay together. And now, of course, the war in the Ukraine. And so people are seeing not just women and how we hear and receive and crave women's stories in a whole other way, but the sense of powerful unity that we all feel for those voiceless victims in the Ukraine it's a global coming together that everyone feels. And that was something that Lee Miller desperately tried to do. So the process of putting the film together is something I'm immensely proud of because it has been detailed, it has been done with a lot of love and a lot of care. And only when we got the screenplay right did we decide, okay, let's go and try and get this thing financed. And we did, and here we are. So it does feel kind of amazing.
Go.
モデルから報道写真家へ
I've seen your photographic work.
カメラに記録したのは戦場だった。
The ministry thought they may disturb people. People need to move on. This little girl in a death camp. How does she move on?
なぜ第二次世界大戦の最前線で撮り続けたのか。リー・ミラー、彼女の瞳が映す世界。